I just graduated. I have a BFA in ceramics, but I have not thrown on the wheel for about a month and a half since I left school, and it's been really nice to take a break. My fingernails were definitely going through it when I was throwing every single day. They were getting kind of warped. I really love the Great Pottery Throwdown. It's one of my favorite shows. I am going to do all of the challenges that they do in the show to try to improve my wheel throwing skills. I would really love to go into the show. It looks like so much fun, but I cannot. So I'm going to be doing this instead. The first challenge in the first episode, they have 20 mugs and they're supposed to put handles on all of them. I am going to do that one eventually, but that does require me to make 20 cups and put handles on all of them, which would take a super long time, especially for my first challenge. So instead, I'm going to be going with the second challenge they do in the first episode, where they make egg cups. I have never made that before, but I have made some cups that probably qualify. Let's just say I've never made them on purpose. So the challenge is to throw off the hump. You have 20 minutes to do it, and you try to make as many as possible. Some tips that they gave in the demo was to not stop the wheel, make a groove so it's easier to cut off the egg cup from the hump. They were using 5 kilos of clay, which is 11 pounds. So I've seen a lot of this show, and when I was watching the segment, I was really surprised that the judges didn't go around and throw the ones that weren't considered egg cups in the trash. I feel like if they did that, people would have a lot less egg cups than they did, but their lowest number was 18 and their highest number was 32. I do not think I will be able to beat 32, especially since I haven't wheel thrown in so long. But I had to go wedge 11 pounds of clay, which is going to be super fun. I used a kitchen scale to weigh out 11 pounds of clay. Then I put a little bit of water on my wheel and slapped it on there. Whenever I'm centering something this big, I put the wheel on a slow speed and then try to center it before I even start putting water on it. Once it feels relatively centered, I add water and start coning. So I should have paid more attention when I was watching the show because I got to this point and I thought it was fine, but now I know it's way too wide for throwing little egg cups. This is how their hump looked in the show for reference. So I began the challenge, and the two tools that I used the most often was a sponge because I like to use it to smooth the walls while I'm making cups, and a needle tool to cut off the cups at the bottom. Sometimes when you're throwing off the hump, it can be kind of hard to tell how deep your cut is, which is how I got this hole in the bottom of my cup. I cut it too short. I slowed this next clip down so that you can see how awkward it can be to take something off the hump while you have really wet hands. You're going to see a lot of funky looking cups later in the video, and this is why. While throwing off the hump is super convenient because you don't have to wedge 100 little balls of clay, the thing I dislike about it the most is how hard it is to get a flat, perfect bottom, and how hard it is to take something off the wheel while it's still super wet and keep the shape. This is exactly why I wanted a taller, skinnier hump for these little egg cups. The more and more cups I threw, the wider and wider my hump got, which made everything so much harder. And I kind of got frustrated with it and started to try to cone it back every so often, which took up a lot of time. But as you're going to see in a few seconds, the skinnier hump helped me make a lot of cups a lot faster. Right here is when my timer went off and my 20 minutes was up. After the timer was up, I still had a good chunk of clay left on the wheel, so I decided to make a cup, which fell apart when I tried to take it off. And then I made a really big bowl with the last chunk of clay, and I'm really happy with how it came out. So I did not get to 18. Watching the show, they didn't throw anyone's out or say that it was unqualified. So I'm just gonna assume that everything I made here that somewhat resembles an egg shape. So I'm just gonna assume that everything I made here that somewhat resembles an egg cup and does not have a hole in the bottom counts. So these are the first ones. I don't think that counts. This is not a cup. This one also has a hole in the bottom, so do not think this one counts. Some of them are pretty messy and they're not very consistent. I think they count. So there is 4 right here. On here, this was my second round. I was doing a lot better, as you can probably tell. I don't know how much this one counts because it really doesn't resemble an egg cup, but some of the other ones are pretty good. A lot of them get pretty messy when I try to take them off the wheel with wet hands. So in total, I have 11 if you count this one, 10 if you don't count it, which I don't think is too bad for not wheel throwing in a really long time, but hopefully after doing a lot of these challenges, I get a lot better. Since I'll not be keeping these, I'm going to put them out onto a plasterboard so I can make new stuff. It was really not convenient to have a wide hump. It made everything a lot harder. A lot of times when I was messing up is when I was really worried about speed, and I was so worried that everything that I made kind of just fell apart. I have thrown off the hump before, but I don't particularly like it because it's kind of hard to get bottoms flat. After the timer was up, even though this is like a fake challenge and no one is making me do this but myself, my cat is just meowing at me really loud and covering herself in dirt. Don't drink from that! Egg cups.